Dear colleagues, dear friends, dear fellow teachers. Our school, the School of Political Science and International Studies at the University of Queensland, has asked me to put together a short video to share my experience of having taught online courses for many years. Now, I hope this video will be useful for some of you as we are now struggling to make a rapid transition to online teaching at a time when the coronavirus is making our personal and professional lives increasingly difficult and challenging. Now, let me say up front, what follows is primarily an account of my personal experience of having taught an online course and of sharing basically what I have learned from it. I am in no way claiming to be an online teaching specialist or to represent the university's official position. Now, I won't cover all of the various aspects of online teaching or all of the latest apps and softwares and teaching and learning tools. What I try to offer is insights derived from having taught a large undergraduate class here at UQ in an online format for the last dozen or so years. It is a course on theories of international relations called Conceptions of World Politics. The course usually has around 150 to 200 students, and I moved this course a dozen years ago from a conventional lecture course to an online course. Now, at the time, we knew fairly little about online teaching, so we literally had to spend several months trying to figure out how to approach online teaching, not just technically in terms of what you do, but also pedagogically, how to go about it in the most efficient and beneficial way for everyone involved. Over the years then, I taught the course in various different ways. For several years, it was a course taught fully online as part of the Universitas 21 program that involved not just UQ students, but also students from our partner institutions in Asia, in Europe, in North America, and in Latin America. I then taught it for a few years in a combined online on-campus mode. And the last couple of years, I've taught it as a required third-year course in our international relations major in an on-campus mode, but with a very substantial online component. So I've made adjustments over the years based on my experience, based on feedback from the students, based on new technological evolutions, based on new pedagogical evolutions. And what I present here basically is what I've learned over the years in a way to hopefully help you deal with what is at the moment a very stressful situations of having to move courses in a very, very fast way online. So let me start first with saying what I have in mind, but I might want to start with first a few sort of basic comments on online teaching and on this rapid transition that you'll have to now implement. Now, my experience with online teaching has been by and large very positive. I think it worked very well. The students respond very well to it. I think they enjoy it. I found it enjoying, but it's also a very time-consuming way of teaching. I would say sort of teaching a course online is probably the same as teaching 1.5 courses. So there's no way around it. It's going to be more labor-intensive for everyone involved. It's also something that requires usually several weeks at least of preparation, thinking through the pedagogical logic, thinking through the technical options, setting it up. So that requires quite a lot of preparation. And there's obviously absolutely no way we can be expected to do that at the moment. We have a few days, a week at most, to make this transition from on-campus to online teaching. So I think inevitably we have to recognize that this is going to be a very improvised transition. We have to look for solutions that are practical, that are low-tech, and that are safe. Like most of our lecturers are not trained in online teaching. They don't have the technical or pedagogical background to do so. Our students did not sign up for online teaching, so they too are not ready for it. So I think we have to kind of opt for fairly straightforward practical solutions. All the more since everyone is going to be very stressed in the next few weeks. The way it looks like the coronavirus situation is going to get a lot worse before it's going to get better. I would not be surprised if universities around the world would have to move to basically a pass-fail kind of mode, given the challenges involved. So I want to sort of offer here now a number of practical solutions of how to deal with these challenges. I'll first talk a little bit about the role of communication in an online teaching mode, which is going to be quite different from an on-campus course, and which is going to be quite crucial in order to create sort of a virtual community and to be clear about what is expected from the student. It also involves reorganizing your Blackboard site, which is going to be the key site sort of of your course. I'll then say a few words about communicating with students, but also of how to effectively use discussion boards to handle what is going to be a huge number of inquiries from students. They're going to be confused, they're going to be emailing to you, so you have to find a way of handling this effectively. I will then say a few words about how to use replacements for lectures. Most of you will have some kind of presentation mode in an on-campus mode, so you have to find something to replace them. I'm going to walk you through a few options and also about what I have experienced, what I have used. Same with replacements for tutorials, for discussion groups, for small groups. What can you use to replace these, and what I have learned, what have I learned from doing so. There will be a Zoom session tomorrow where I'm more than happy to kind of elaborate in more detail, answer questions, and help you in any possible way. I'm also very happy to help you personally. Send me an email. We can, I don't know, set up a separate discussion group on Zoom. I'm happy to do separate videos on the more technical, smaller aspects of it. But for now, I'm going to try to outline some of these basic things I have learned over the last dozen years of teaching online courses. So first thing is, it's going to be very, very important that you communicate very clearly, crystal clearly to your students. A lot of the students will be very confused. They're stressed. They will never have taken an online course. They don't know what to expect. So it's imperative that you're crystal clear at minimum about what precisely has changed, what is expected from the students in this new mode, and how are they going to be assessed. This is what the students will want to know, and you've got to be very clear about what that is. My suggestion is, in addition to what you already have to do, given university guidelines, and that is adjust your syllabus, your electronic course profile, do a range of things, I suggest put together a short document, a page or two, that outlines clearly what has changed. How have you replaced online teaching with on-campus teaching with an online mode? What exactly is expected from students, and how exactly are they going to be assessed in the new mode? This is what they wanted. This is what they will know. Now, in addition to doing this, I think it's also important to have to create some kind of virtual community. That's what I've tried to do when I taught my online courses over the last few years. You have to replace the experience of being in a classroom with the experience of learning together in an online mode. So this kind of virtual community, the creation of the virtual community, is really very important. And I'll talk you through a variety of technical things through which I do that. But one way simply is that works is to communicate more regularly with your student through announcements, through emails. For instance, I always open up my classes on Monday morning. I tell them, where the video for the week is. I tell them, I do blogs. I tell them what the question of the blog is. I tell them what is expected. So they get it started, and then I usually log in every day, every other day, to kind of see how it's going, to sort of say, look, here's this big event happening in world politics. Let's think about how that relates to the theories we studied this week. So just to give them a sense that students are part of a community of learning, which is not going to be the same as an on-campus one, but it's one that actually can work quite effectively if you do it well. So that's kind of the first preliminary remark. The second preliminary remark is that your Blackboard site is going to be a lot more important in an online course than in an on-campus course, because that will be the first and prime contact for your students. So go and review your Blackboard site. make sure everything is clear there, make sure students can easily find all the things they need to find, your videos, whatever you do for your week, your blogs, your Zoom links, but also, for instance, the instructions about how to teach in an online mode. Everything should be there, easy and available for students. That's where they're going to be logging in a lot more often than they have now. Then the last preliminary kind of remark I want to make is that you're going to get a lot of email inquiries from students, particularly in courses that have like 100, 200 or more students. Students will be confused, they will be stressed, they don't know what's happening, so they will email you with a range of different questions. They do so anyway in an online course, but at the moment when we have this incredibly uncertain situation in the world, they're going to be emailing you a lot more. So my approach to this would be, based on my experience, is handle all emails that are of a personal nature, whether it's, whether students are sick, they need extensions, they have personal problems, handle them personally through an email, through a Zoom conversation, in whichever way you deem is appropriate. But all inquiries that have to do with the generic nature of the course, with technical stuff like the nature of your essay, with the substance of the course and so on, all of these generic inquiries, see that you can move them onto a discussion board. Because you're going to get the same inquiries dozens and dozens and dozens of times. So rather than answering them the same way time and again, make sure you have an online kind of discussion on the discussion board. Again, that's part of creating an online community, and it's going to be a lot more efficient because you can have one student asking a question about, now, how is the blog going to work? It's not quite clear, and then you can use the discussion board to clarify how it's going to be. Other students can come in, or so on. I'm going to show you how I did that in my course. This is the course I've been teaching online for the last dozen years on conceptions of world politics. This is last year's course where I actually didn't teach it online. I taught it on campus with a substantial online component, but I will use that to illustrate what I've done. So I have a discussion board. It's not as extensive as in previous years when the course was fully online, but I still encourage students to go on. So if they have questions about anything, for instance, about the essay question, about the blog, about different literature, students can just go on. They ask a question, I answer here, and when I taught it online, we often would have a very extensive discussion on the discussion board here. Other students came in, the tutors came in, and then we sort of handle that online. Now you can have a variety of discussion boards. It's very easy to create a new one. You just create a new forum, you give it a name, and you have a second one. So for instance, for many years, I had a discussion board on the technical questions about the course. I had a discussion board on the substantive questions. I had a discussion board for the take-home exams. So for instance, if you're going to replace your tutorials with some kind of blog things, you could very easily each week set up a discussion board on like week 4 blog on this and that, and then students can put in here whatever they need to do, like a 200-word entry, a 300-word entry on the question of the week. So that's technically going to be very easy. Blackboard is available. That's one option you have. But I'll talk in a minute about the use of blogs as a way, and discussion boards as a way of replacing tutorials. This is just to say a discussion board is going to be really, really useful in terms of handling a lot of the inquiries. And it serves at the same time as a way of creating some kind of virtual community. But these are sort of the preliminary remarks I had about how to kind of psychologically, in many ways, make a shift from on-campus to online teaching. Now, a few words about lectures. Most of you, when you teach on campus, have some kind of lecture component, whether it's a formal 45-minute lecture, whether it's shorter presentations, but most of you have some kind of presentation component that you now have to find a replacement for when you teach online. There's a whole range of different options that I can walk you through, and ultimately you have to sort of figure out which options you're going to take, familiarize yourself with the kind of software available to do that, and then apply it. So what I can do primarily is talk about my own experience. I've used ScreenFlow for my lectures. ScreenFlow is a software that's it's very easy, it's effective, but it's not a UQ-supported software. It used to be very cheap. It's now a little bit more expensive. But it's very, very similar, I understand, from Kaltura, which is the official UQ software to use for online lectures, online lecture recordings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through ScreenFlow a little bit through the kind of the psychological or through the strategic pedagogical approach. But you can apply a lot of these insights also when you talk about when you use Kaltura. So basically, ScreenFlow is a software. Unfortunately, I can't really demonstrate it. I've got it here, down here. I can't demonstrate it because if I did so, I would then have to close the present ScreenFlow recording. But in essence, what ScreenFlow does, it records absolutely everything that is on your screen. Again, if I kind of move now from the PowerPoint lecture presentation to Blackboard, or to anything else, to Zoom, it will record exactly what is on my screen. You can put a video up there, you can put anything up there. Also be careful, for instance, if you have your desktop up there, obviously everyone will see what is on your desktop. So it records absolutely everything, and it records you in a window somewhere where you can see me talking, exactly in the mode you can see right now. You can easily kind of shift this around. You can make the video bigger for a certain amount of time. You can make it smaller. You can make it disappear. You can only have view up. So there's a variety of things you can do. And then you can export that in different modes. So I'll talk about that a bit later. So this for me has been very easy. I'm sitting at home here. I have ScreenFlow installed on my home computer. It's pretty straightforward. It's not rocket science. I can happy to help people if they want to use that software. They would have to pay for it themselves to upload it, but I'm more than happy to help people. The main UQ software to do lectures is Kaltura. And there's a lot of really helpful online learning tools to teach you how to use Kaltura. There's drop-in sections that Italy UQ's Teaching and Learning Institution are offering. So if that's what you want to use, I think just make yourself familiar with how Kaltura works and use that as an online lecture replacement. You can also record lectures on Zoom. I haven't used Zoom extensively in the past. Myself at the moment trying to get on top of it, but that's one other software option you have to record online lectures. This is not part of the UQ instructions. I haven't seen it anywhere, but you might just, if worst comes to worst, use a phone or iPad, tablet kind of videos or audios to record it. I think at the moment we're in a situation where things are changing rapidly. You will have to improvise. You will have to find ways of making this happen for your class and be kind of just innovative and creative about how you go about it. The files might be very big, so you might have to find a way of compressing an MP4 format to a smaller one, but I would say just use whatever works for you. Another option is, and that's been mentioned officially at UQ, that you can just basically re-upload your recordings from your official lecture recordings from last year. Now understand that editing them is very tricky, but this is an unusual situation. Tell students, look, this is difficult. Here's last year's lectures. I'm fully aware that this is last year's lectures. It has some references to last year's kind of activities. Ignore them, but here's the basic thing. Again, look, is this going to get a lot more difficult for us in the next few weeks? You will have to improvise. You will have to find one way or another of doing this. Now, some strategies here based on my experiences that I've learned of using ScreenFlow that will apply to all of these various modes you're going to make. One of them is don't do a 2-hour lecture. That's going to be a hassle for you. It's going to be really boring for students, so keep your lecture short. I think absolute maximum I'd say is about 40 minutes. I usually do 2 or 3 smaller, shorter videos. For instance, in my class, I go through the different theories of world politics, so I will have, say, a lecture on feminism or a lecture on post-colonialism. That's maybe about 30 minutes, 35 minutes long. And then I have a second lecture in which I apply these theories to what's happening in the world right now, right this week. So at the moment, I would do a lecture on whatever it is, liberalism, and then I will probably do a second lecture on how can liberalism help us to understand the whole crisis around the coronavirus. So to kind of apply theories to practice. But do shorter lectures simply because they're easier to upload, they're easier to view, they're less cumbersome for students. Also at the moment, like I think everyone is going to be stressed. Students are going to be hugely stressed. So I think make it as easy for them as possible. Make it as easy for you as possible. This is all going to be a lot of extra work getting this done. So keep your kind of videos in whichever mode you're recording. I think keep them reasonably short, I would suggest. Resist the temptation to be perfect. When you start recording, you will sort of realize that you're going to stumble, you mumble, you're in the middle of a recording, your phone rings, someone walks in. The temptation is just to break off the video, start from scratch again, and very soon you're going to be on recording number 35, and you have spent the rest of the half day already doing it. So just keep going. Even if you stumble, if you say something wrong, just say sorry. Don't be tempted to start the recording from scratch. It's inevitable. You see me rambling here incoherently, and that's just the nature of it. That's what happens in a real lecture too. You're not going to have everything in a real lecture in a classroom. You'll mumble, you'll say something wrong, and you just say it again. So use the same kind of strategy when you teach online. You can usually edit stuff out, but again, I think just be natural, do what you would do anyway, and I think that's going to be perfectly fine. Now, here I don't know exactly what the options are going to be in Kaltura and Zoom. I can talk primarily about my options with ScreenFlow. What I usually do is I upload a video version of the lecture, and in ScreenFlow it allows you to upload different sort of size formats, whether it's a super high quality, whether it's a super low quality, something in the middle. And I always also upload an audio file, which is a very small file that could even be sent in an email. And it allows people who have difficulties with access to broadband, to fast broadband, or just fast internet in general, it allows them to basically have access to an easy file, a much smaller file. Also always upload the slides in big format. Uploading is also going to be challenging, I presume, for you, because downloading files is quite easy, fast. Uploading files is a lot more difficult, takes a long time. So a large video could take a long time to upload. At minimum, I would think the length of the video itself. So don't be surprised when you upload it on Blackboard that it's going to take a long time. From UQ, it's a lot faster. From home, it takes a lot longer. That's another reason to opt for smaller files to upload. Now, I usually, the way I arrange things, and again, as I've mentioned at the beginning, your Blackboard side is going to be very important. That's where everything is going to be for students. That's where students will log in. That's what they will see in the first instance. So make sure everything is available. You have your new instructions there. For instance, one of the key sites in my course are the learning resources. So I have, for every week, I have a folder with the activities of the week. So in this course, for instance, we have an introduction. We talk about nature of theory. And in this particular course on theories, I sort of turn things around and actually start with post-colonialism and feminism at the very beginning of the semester to kind of shake things up a little bit and challenge some of the West-centric and masculine ways of understanding the nature of theories. So what I usually have in this folder, I always have an outline of what's happening in the week, the key themes of the week, the questions we're going to ask, the readings for the week. And then I have my audiovisual lectures, so students can just click on this MP4 format, and they will get my lecture.
Conceptions of world politics scholars,
they can also download the lecture and view it later. So you download it as a linked file, you just download it to your desktop, to your tablet, wherever, and then you can view it later on. Again, I have here 2 lectures. For instance, I have a lecture on post-colonialism, a lecture on feminism, and then I have a 3rd lecture on applying feminism and post-colonialism to events that happen this very week in the world. And then I also always have podcasts. Again, they're much smaller files. So this one is 16 megabytes. That might be slightly too much for an email. Maybe not. I think you can probably email that. Whereas the audio file is 109 megabytes. That's quite large. So, but the podcast, again, if all fails, students can easily find that podcast. So here you get the same thing without the video.
Welcome back. Conceptions of World Politics Scholars, welcome back to lecture 2.
So, and here too, again, you can download that. Then I put up the PowerPoint presentations, and I put up, extra readings and whatever is required. So for every week, I have a folder with these kind of various things there, so the students know exactly, all right, now is week, whatever week, week for realism and neorealism, I can go in there and I can find all my various kind of things in there. So that is kind of how I handle the lecture replacements. I usually do my lecture usually on Friday. I don't want to do it too early because I always want to refer to what's happening in the world right now. So I do them on Friday. I officially kind of, make an announcement on Monday. Some students go in early on Saturday, Sunday if they want to catch the videos early. But on Monday, I make an official announcement. The video is available for the week. And then students go in and view it. And then we plan the rest of the activities for the rest of the week. So that's about lectures. Again, happy to kind of elaborate on more detail in a Zoom session. Tomorrow, happy to do an extra video on how to do ScreenFlow as well if you like to, or do some kind of session. It's really up to you. Get in touch if you like more feedback on that. And again, UQ has fantastic online workshops on Kaltura, on Zoom, on a range of things that are very, very useful to use. And they still have drop-in sessions. I'm not sure how long we're going to be open on campus, but they still have drop-in sessions. Now, the second issue we'll have to deal with is what to do with tutorials. Like most classes, especially large one, will have a standard tutorial, 8 classes a week, 8 classes a semester. And now you're going to have to find activities to replace your tutorial. So I'm going to walk through here now a range of different options you have. And I'm going to talk obviously mostly about what I have done in the context of this course. Now, the main options you'll basically be given and sort of be encouraged to use by UQ is Zoom. Zoom is this kind of, I guess, officially UQ version of Skype, but you can bring in a lot more people to run it. Now, I think Zoom is great. I'm still learning it. I said I haven't used it in a classroom setting. I'm still learning it with everyone else at the moment. And I think you should have a go. I think you should use it. But I also think you should be ready to have backup options in case Zoom is not going to work. And this for a few reasons. I mean, one is Zoom is fairly easy from the looks of it, but it's also not super easy. It does require quite a bit of kind of learning about it, spending time with it, knowing how you do the various things, getting everyone online, inviting everyone online through URL links, through Blackboard links, how to organize breakup groups, how to bring everyone together again, and so on. So it does require a bit of familiarity. The question is, how familiar will some of our lecturers be? How comfortable will they be in using Zooms? But also, how comfortable are students going to be? Most students have not signed up for an online course. They're not ready for that. So they may not be comfortable either. And more importantly, I think not all students will going to or not even all staff will have access to easy internet, a room that's quiet. I think we assume here, and that's kind of a class issue, we assume that students are well off and have all the equipment at home. They can sit in a comfortable living room. Not all students are going to be that comfortably off. They're going to be stressed. They're going to be in a difficult situation. They might just have a phone. They might have limited broadband coverage. They might have limited money to use it. So my sense or my suspicion is it's not going to be working for everyone for a range of different reasons. So I think you should be ready for a more low-tech backup options to Zoom if things are going to get more difficult, if there's going to be challenges, if also, for instance, if broadband is overloaded when everyone's using it. So I think use Zoom, but be ready to offer backup options. that's just, again, that's not UQ policy. That is just my personal view based on the experience I've had over the last dozen years of teaching online, and the kind of what I would anticipate is going to be happening over the next few weeks as the world is going to become quite chaotic. So what I want to do now primarily is talk about what I have done in my course over the last dozen or so years. So I have used weekly blogs. That was my main activity in lieu of tutorials. So the blogs, they would open on Monday morning. Again, Monday morning I make an announcement and say, look, here we have the week on whatever, constructivism. Here are the readings, the key questions of the week is this. The lecture is online, go and view it. We have an audio lecture, we have a video lecture, the slides are online, go and view the lecture. And then the blog is going to start. So for a blog, you need to have very, very clear guidelines. I think for any kind of activity that replaces a tutorial, you have to have crystal clear guidelines about what is expected from the students and how they're going to be assessed. For a blog, for instance, each week I have a very, very clear question or two questions about the week that we are dealing with. It's a bit like you have in a tutorial, except I think you probably have to zoom in on one or two questions, Then guidelines about what is expected. With the blog, for instance, we have guidelines that the blog needs to be around 300 words. The blog has to directly engage the question of the week. The blog has to engage the readings of the week. It has to engage the lectures in some way or another. And it has to make a clear central point, and it has to do proper referencing. Tutors are then there to moderate the blogs. The tutors would sort of open up the blog on Monday morning and say, look, here's the question of the week, you all have a go, and then make sure you post early, and then you have some people posting on Monday and Tuesday. The tutor might come in again on Wednesday and say, look, here we have now 4 blog entries. We see there's major differences between Jack and Jihong, and they have different views of this, and what about thinking about this? So that the tutor then sort of like you would moderate a tutorial, a tutor would moderate the blog in pretty much the same way and guide students through the experience of learning. Ideally, students would engage each other. If someone posts on Thursday, they would say, yeah, look, on Monday, Jihong posted this. What about that? So you hopefully engage in some kind of online virtual learning community. This is going to take a while to train students to do that. At the beginning, they will just post their standard blogs, but then hopefully as the semester goes on, they will engage with each other in the blog. I also found that this is a really, really, really good way of teaching students how to write, because they have to write every week. They can't hide. They can't sit in the back of the tutorial and say nothing, haven't done the readings. They're going to be exposed. They have to show that they've done the reading, and usually their writing improves over the semester because they have to do it every week. They have to engage in written work. So this all works very well. So again, the blog links, for instance, I put them in the weekly learning folder. So for instance, we have here week 4 realism. We have, as said before, we have an introduction to the theme of the week. We have the readings. We have the audiovisual lectures, PowerPoints, the podcasts, and then we have the blog groups. So we have group 1, 3, 4. We have to set them up separately. Again, that's something you can, there's Blackboard instructions about how to set up tutorial groups. If setting up tutorial groups or like blogs you find it too difficult, the discussion board is fairly similar. It's a lot easier. I showed you before how to do that, and I might go back to that again. But so you have, say, tutorial group 2, you open up, and usually the tutor would make an opening statement that's missing in this one, a short statement, repeating the question that I send out in an announcement in an email to students, and then the students engage in various entries. You see them here post stuff. They can post photos as well. They can post a range of things. They have references, and they kind of engage then during the week in that procedure. Sorry. It is also, as I said, important that you have clear guidelines. I put them under assessments. I have here for all the key tasks, there's 3 tasks in this class. There's tutorial, participation, and blog, take-home exam, and a research assignment. So I put up here the clear guidelines for a blog. So I say what's required, what the blog is. I talk about the learning expectations, how the blog is going to be working, when it opens, when it closes. It opens at 10 a.m. on Monday, it closes at 2 on the following Monday. I used to close it on Friday, and I wasn't told I'm not allowed to do that, so I gave them a bit of extra time. Where they can find the blog, how they're going to post in there. Again, happy to share this with you if you find that's going to be useful to you. What the blog is worth, how many % of the thing, how it's going to be marked, and so on. Word limits, plagiarism rules. I also have something about being respectful in a blog, and you sometimes have very disrespectful posts, so you've got to make sure that students know that they can disagree with each other as academics, but they have to be respectful and so on. So again, expectations of what they have to be have done the weekly readings, cite properly, reflect a scholarly approach rather than merely an opinion, all these kind of things, referencing. Now, there is no way you're going to be able to get this done properly in such a short time. This is impossible. I think this takes us every semester several weeks of preparation, of thinking through things, of doing all these clear guidelines. So do what you can, but I suggest have at least a short document that outlines what are the new criteria that students will be required in whatever options you have that replaces the tutorial, whether it's Zoom, whether it's the weekly blogs, whether it's a discussion board entry. And again, we can go back here quickly to the Blackboard site. That's definitely discussion board is a very easy way of doing it. You just basically create a new forum, and you can see here basically week 5, discussion on this. You have a short description, and then students can afterwards post. So that's probably technically one of the most low-key ways of doing that. Now you have other options as well. One option is a Padlet. This is something I have used in a course that Emma Hutchison and I taught last semester, a master's class an honors master's class on the role of images, emotions, and world politics. So Emma set that up, and the way a tablet works is basically you can post. I'll show you a new one afterwards how it works. So here, for instance, what we've done is at the beginning of the course, we ask students, so what do you know about the role of images in politics without having read any literature? Tell us, give us an example of a particularly powerful image in politics and write about why, just off the cuff, why this is important. So we have Boris Johnson here, we have a range of, we have Trump, we have a range of different things, protests in Hong Kong. So they write about that. And then at the end of the course, we did a Padlet again, and we asked them, all right, so now we have taken the course, reflect on how, having read literature on images, on emotions, and so on, how has that changed your view of understanding the issues at stake? What have you learned? Doing a Padlet is pretty easy. I know Emma Hutchison is also using it at the moment when she is moving her course on ethics and human rights, her master's course at UQ, from an on-campus to an online kind of format. So I'm using her sample entry here. So she's established a tablet for this. The Padlet is I keep saying tablet, sorry. Padlet is a UQ-supported software. It's fairly easy to use. Again, there's tutorials online. If you want to use that, just spend a bit of time familiarizing yourself with it. It's not rocket science. You have a basic page you set up, and then students just click, and they do a new entry. So, and they can do anything from uploading a file, like a photograph. They can do a URL link. They can do a range of different things here. You can put your own photograph up. So you can do a variety of different things, more options here. Again, I think that's quite a useful thing to do in a tutorial group where you have something like between 10 and 20 different students. You can use each week a Padlet to kind of have discussions. Now, in the one I showed before, we didn't ask students to put their name on it because this was not marked. It was just a way of brainstorming and we didn't want students to be under pressure. But of course, if you mark your Padlet, then you want students to have their name up, and you want to have the same thing as in my blog. You want to have very clear criteria about what is expected from students, how many words, what question they have to respond to, whether they have to do referencing, whether they have to make a central point. You would have to have marking criteria for it. And so you have to just think through what it does pedagogically, but also what is kind of expected from students and how you're then going to evaluate the respective task. There's quizzes you can do. There's kind of like feedback options. So UQ has a lot of different things, and there's a lot of online tutorials, and we've been handed out a number of sheets about how to use them. You find them online. So I think Italy, UQ's kind of teaching and learning institute is really fantastic in having a whole range of different online sources. They're still running on-campus kind of drop-in sessions and training sessions. For how long? I'm not sure. I guess it depends on how the coronavirus continues. But there's lots of resources to help you. So in some sense, like with the lecture, you need to figure out what you're going to do to replace your tutorial. Familiarize yourself with the kind of software and with the pedagogical nature of what you're going to do, whether it's Zoom, whether it's blogs, whether it's Padlets, whether it's a discussion board, and then think through the pedagogical ways of going about it, think through the expectations, think through the way you're going to evaluate students, and then communicate that to students very clearly in a short kind of one-page document so that it's crystal clear what they have to do. Assignments, look, there's not much I can say about assignments. In my online class, for instance, I had blogs, a 3-day take-home exam, and an essay. They're all text-based, so they're pretty straightforward. They go through Turnitin. Yeah, I was going to say here, the other option is with assignments is just to establish a Turnitin link and treat it like, if you have a weekly kind of assignments, treat it like an essay and just have them upload the assignment in Word or in PDF on Turnitin and then simply mark it that way. That's another way of running a weekly exercise. Again, like before, you have to be creative, you have to be innovative, you have to improvise, you have to just see what works. All this would normally take a lot of time to prepare. There's no way we can be expected to have this perfect. We just have to kind of see what we can do in the very, very short time we have to make this move from on-campus to online teaching. Again, tomorrow, Friday, the 20th of March, we will have an online Zoom session where I'll just be available to give you further feedback. I want to stress again, I'm not an expert in online teaching. I'm definitely not on top of all the various softwares. I'm not on top of the latest pedagogical kind of writing on it. This is simply, my way of sharing 10 or more years of experience with having taught an online course, with the kind of things, positive and negative experience I've made. I'm very happy to help you individually. Send me an email. We might send up a Zoom discussion group. I'm here to help you in whatever way you can. It's going to be a very, very difficult situation for everyone, for you making the transition as teaching from on-campus to online, but also for the students who will be confused, who will have to deal with a range of pressures, not just about a new mode of teaching, but also pressures at home, being, dealing with that very difficult situation. Some of them are away from family, and they're going to be having family members or themselves affected by the virus. So it's going to be difficult. You have to be understanding. I think you have to be flexible. And part of the online community, creation of an online community, I think, is to kind of convey this sense of empathy that you're part of a community and you work things out as a community and we're in that together. You will have to be more flexible than you usually are with extensions, with different types of assignments, with technical problems that come up. I think you'll have to have that sense of flexibility, of improvisation in a way that's quite unusual. So I wish you good luck with it. I hope it works well. And again, I'm here to help in any way I can. So good luck and all the best.